I can't believe I'm going to confess this to everybody, but it's probably about time. I faked my way into the Apple 200 on business list. Yeah, the Apple Podcast business list. I actually faked and cheated my way onto the list. I'm telling you this now because I actually think it's kind of important to be honest with you, given that my entire platform is about authenticity and how to get your name out there the right way and doing it through integrity. I think I owe you that much. So yeah, it's true. I faked my way into the Apple Top 200 podcast list. Started January 6th, and the show was called This Podcast Isn't Real. It's a fake show. But I did get into the top 200 in about a week for $500 by paying a scammer from India. And yeah, my name's John Smith on the show. And it ended up getting to 191 on Apple Podcast Business by January 13th with only 1,025 downloads. Top 200 list Apple Business, 1,025 downloads, peaking at 158 13 days later with a total of 4,300 downloads. If you're thinking, wow, it didn't sound like that much to get in the top 200, you're right. And there are a lot of weird things I discovered in this, I'll call it an experiment. So the big question is, why would I do such a stupid thing? Why would I spend $500, give it to a scammer in India to create a fake show my own name's not even attached to? Here's why. I've known about this for a few years now. I've known that podcasters buy fake listeners, they fake data for quite some time. I think you probably know that too. We know about fake followers on X and LinkedIn and Facebook. We know about all that. Basically, there's a whole industry on driving fake engagement online. Now, due to my experience as a podcaster, I get hit up constantly. On LinkedIn alone, I'm getting hit up with a podcast promoter, probably weekly. On X, Twitter, it's the same thing. I don't really use Facebook, so no one reaches out to me there, obviously. But I'm getting hit by these people all the time, and I've always wondered, how do I know how prevalent this is, and how do I know if it's actually even doable? So for years, I've been leading on various scammers, trying to get them to give up information. And over time, I have gotten them to send me the receipts and show me who they've worked with. At the end of the day, what am I going to do? Reach out to some of these creators and ask if they faked their show data? I mean, I did do that. I reached out to a few, got no responses, which, duh. Who's going to admit to that? No one. So I was like, there's got to be a way to prove this. So this is what I did. I created the fake show in an effort to prove this is a real thing and can happen. So $500, I paid a scammer $500 to do this whole thing, $250 up front, and $250 on delivery. He delivered. And I said, hey, you've delivered. I know you're scamming me. I know this is all fake. And I'm going to pay you anyway. And not only that, I'm going to pay you an additional $100 if you tell me how it works. He agreed to that as well. And here's what he told me. Click farms of old. Remember, you've probably seen the click farms of old. They have giant racks with tons of devices everywhere. They're automated, and you can tell them to download such and such a thing, and it'll hit it really hard. Like you can use all these devices to follow people on social media, to watch YouTube videos, to inflate numbers. You've probably heard about click farms before. This really isn't super new. But what you may not know, and what I learned, was that they don't need so many devices anymore. They don't need tons of devices. In fact, they only need a handful of devices because these days they use Apple IDs. They've figured out how to use Apple IDs and randomly sign in and out of just a handful of devices. I'm guessing, based on my conversation, that he has about 30 devices. I actually think he told me he has about 30 devices that he uses. That's not a lot. But they buy Apple IDs in bulk for about $7 a pop. And they can buy tons of these Apple IDs from various brokers and markets online. I did ask how people go about acquiring these Apple IDs, but there was only so much he was willing to tell me, which is understandable. But here's what it gets. This story just keeps getting crazier because I started looking at the data and comparing my host data with Apple's data. Now, keep in mind, these scammers use VPNs to mask their location to not raise any suspicion. That's what he confirmed to me. And so I started looking into this, and Apple's Podcast Connect data, this is the tool they provide for podcasters on the back end. You can see your data, see who's listening, all that kind of stuff, does not match with my official host data. Now, a host is similar to a website. So Libsyn is the host I use. Great company, love them a lot, great customer service. They have very precise data and metrics. Apple's data does not agree with their data at all. And I put the suspicion on Apple, not on Libsyn. Here's why. Apple data, Libsyn data showed by January 13th, I had over 1,000 downloads. And of course, in our case, it only took just over 1,000 to crack the top 200 on business, which absolutely tells you several things. Apple Podcasts may not be, that many people might not be listening on Apple Podcasts, and it's really easy to get in the top 200. Think about if you have an organization with 1,000 employees. Like, you could rule the Apple Podcast charts by just having all your internal employees coordinate. You could rule the whole charts. Wouldn't be that hard if everybody on every computer just listened to the show. Those are legit listeners downloading legit shows. You could totally rule the charts quite easily if you're just a medium-sized business. So Apple's data, Libsyn's data shows 1,000 downloads, okay? So 1,018 downloads. But Apple's data shows 35. 35 plays. Now, they have a bunch of different criteria, like how many followers you have. I think Apple's data says I have 50 followers, 35 plays, 12 longer plays. They have a bunch of different criteria that's in the article, but the bottom line here is that Libsyn recorded over 1,000 downloads and Apple recorded only 35 plays. Now, if you're savvy, you're thinking, Justin, it sounds like maybe Apple is correcting for the scammers. Maybe they are on to this. Maybe they're correcting for it somehow. Maybe they have filters set up. Okay, maybe. But then why are they putting me in the top 200 with 35 plays? That shouldn't even be remotely possible. Clearly, Libsyn's data is accurate and Apple's showing me who knows what. I have no idea what they're showing, but this is not my first run-in with Apple Podcast Connect data. In the past, it has been very wrong. I've had people hit test shows and checked Apple's data and it shows no one listened to it, even though I know people listen to it. So I don't know what's wrong there. I don't know why Apple's not correcting this issue. I don't know if they're aware this is an issue at all. The show's still up. You can still go listen to it. I was very clear that I was buying and making a fake show. I literally say in the show, do not listen to this. Do not subscribe. This is a fake show. I literally say that in the show. So how do you get in the top 200? How do you, without being reported, without the show coming down? It's been sitting up there forever. I've told people on the show what I'm doing, and still it sits up there. So I've been investigating this, like I've said, for years. I've DM'd creators. No one's responded ever. Some of the, there are several scammers I've been talking to. Some have shown receipts and in hopes I would actually work with them. They've dropped some big names. They have showed DMs back and forth to these individuals. I'm not going to call these individuals out. That's not my thing. I'm not going to go bash on other creators. And here's the other thing. They may not know. They may have no idea they're even being scammed. Let me get into that here a little later. But first, what would be the motivations for this? Well, vanity is one. That's a strong motivation. A lot of people, they just want the attention. So that's one motivation. But think about influence. If you have a show that has a lot of subscribers, you can interview really high profile people. You can connect to some high profile people. Indeed, in this election, we saw the president go on a lot of podcasts over various media entities. So if you have a podcast with a lot of subscribers, you potentially can access some pretty high profile people. The other thing is fake listens draw real engagement if the content is good. This is why people buy fake followers, because people follow other people. If something's popular, people assume it's popular for a reason and they jump on the bandwagon. This is why seeding works. If you don't know what seeding is, it's what some people use in Spaces or live YouTube or even Twitch to make their numbers look high so other people think, well, this must be a popular space. I'm going to check this out. In fact, recently, and I'll put it in the article, there was a woman who got caught doing this on Twitch when she pulled up the wrong tab and her ViewBot showed. She was running software to artificially inflate her numbers. The outcomes are kind of significant here. The fake turns into real. You can close bigger clients. You can sell books. You can secure some big opportunities. You're a marketing genius with 100,000 followers and everything you touch is gold. You can charge clients a lot of money. Here's the problem, though. That could be fraud. That could be kind of a big deal. That could be fraudulent activity if you're faking this stuff and then charging money, especially if advertisers are paying for reach that you're advertising and it's not real. That could be fraud. Now, here's the bottom line. Some of these creators may not know. I think they should know. They should be savvy. They should understand digital. But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they don't know. A lot of these podcast promoters or podcast growth assistants or podcast marketers will tell you that they're hitting real people. These are real subscribers. We're bringing real people to your show that match your criteria. They do say that. I thought this is a pretty big story. I have some data. And if we stop right here, that's a pretty big story in and of itself. But we're not going to stop right here, because I actually did this alongside a journalist at a fairly large publication. And this individual watched me do the whole experiment. I sent them something ahead of time saying, I'm uploading the show. Here it is. Here's the name of it. The name's John Smith. This podcast isn't real. You watch. I'm going to get it in the top 200. If I do that, is this a story? Absolutely, that's a story. So I did it. And then they're like, well, if this individual said what they were doing and how they pulled this off, then we definitely write about this. So I did that in writing, got everything documented. This individual told me, sit on it. I want this. It's already written in my head. Give me some time. I'll get back to you. Months went on. They got back to me. And after they ran it up the chain, suddenly they weren't interested anymore. And they wanted no part in it. That's a quote. No part in it. So I pitched another publication. Also, same thing. Very excited, ran it up to the chain, hit a brick wall. Now, that could be a coincidence. It could be, you as a PR person, I pitch stories all the time and reporters say no. It could be a total coincidence. But it just so happens both of those publications have podcasts in the top 200 lists. I'm Justin Brady. Follow along for more.